During World War II, thousands of ships of all classes were sunk, ranging from small PT boats and merchant ships to battleships and aircraft carriers, and all of those in between. For the men on board, it is a very deadly situation, and many would be lucky to survive. But how about surviving 2 sinkings in the same afternoon? For the soldiers of the French Chasseurs 5th Demi Brigade and the sailors of the Allied destroyer Bison and HMS Afridi, the 3rd of May 1940 will be a day none of them will ever forget. The Scandinavian front in World War II is often a neglected and forgotten story. Both had major implications in the outcome of the war. Stalin's Soviet Union invaded their tiny neighbor of Finland on November 30th, 1939. But to the amazement of the world, the Soviet advance was checked by the tiny Finnish army. It took 4 months and more than 500,000 casualties on the Soviet side to finally bring the Finns to surrender. This dismal performance by the Red Army encouraged Hitler to plan Operation Barbarossa and the invasion of the Soviet Union. Hitler too had his aspirations for Scandinavian conquest. Norway was a vital part of the German war machine, sending rich iron ore to Germany to be used in their war industry. If this flow of ore was to be cut off, it would severely diminish the output of planes, tanks, and other war material. Not only this, but if Germany could seize Norway, their ports would make for ideal bases for future naval operations against the British, as well as denying these bases to them. The British were in the course of preparing to execute their occupation of Norway when Germany narrowly won this race. Operation Weserübung, the German invasion plan for Denmark and Norway, was the first example in history of a coordinated air, sea, and land operation involving all 3 services. This total force included 9 German divisions totaling 120,000 men, 2 battleships, 2 battle cruisers, 1 pocket battleship, 2 heavy and 4 light cruisers, 14 destroyers, 20 torpedo boats, 50 minesweepers, and 31 U-boats. Virtually the entire German surface fleet, as well as 230 fighters, 270 bombers, and 500 transport aircraft. On the morning of the 9th of April, 1940, 9 German divisions of the German 21st Corps under General Nicholas von Falkenhorst marched, landed, and were dropped into Denmark and Norway. The German 198th and 170th Infantry Division and the German 11th Motorized Rifle Brigade invaded Denmark, which was simply in the way, causing their capitulation within 6 hours. The German 214th, 196th, 181st, 163rd, and 69th Infantry Division, as well as the 2nd and 3rd Mountain Division, landed or were dropped by parachute all along the Norwegian coast at Narvik, Trondheim, Bergen, Stavanger, Kristiansand, Ardennes, and Oslo. As the Allies were already in the process of preparing to occupy Norway, they were able to respond quickly, landing more than 35,000 troops in different detachments in Narvik, Andelsnes, and Namsos between the 14th and 18th of April. Marie's force, commanded by Major General Carton de Witt, consisted of the British 146th Brigade and the French 5th Demi Brigade, Chasseurs de Alpine, landed at Namsos on the 14th of April, but Marie's force was in ill position to fight. Lacking heavy weapons, the situation was made more dire on the 20th of April when German bombers flattened Namsos, destroying the brigade's ammunition dump. Moving south to retake Trondheim, this force was flanked and attacked by German forces who had been landed by destroyers that were initially trapped within Beatstedt Ford. German forces occupying Trondheim also sallied out to attack Marie's force. By the 23rd of April, the entire Marie's force was retreating back towards Namsos. Major General de Witt began evacuation of Allied troops occupying Namsos. This evacuation was made more difficult by the air superiority of the Luftwaffe, which bombed the ground forces and ships incessantly. Heavy fog had allowed the evacuation to continue near uninterrupted. By the morning of the 3rd of April, the evacuation was near complete, but the fog had lifted and the Allies' luck had run out. Within the Allied flotilla off Namsos was the Allied destroyer Bison and HMS Afridi. The French warship Bison was a Gepard-class destroyer launched on the 29th of October, 1928. She displaced 2,436 tons, had a length of 130.2 meters or 427 feet 2 inches, and a beam of 11.5 meters or 37 feet 9 inches. She was powered by 4 Temple boilers, which produced 63,000 horsepower, which gave the destroyer a maximum speed of 35.5 knots at a range of 3,000 nautical miles. Her main armament were 5 138.6mm or 5.5-inch guns, 4 single 37mm or 1.5-inch AA guns, as well as 2 triple 550mm or 21.7-inch torpedo tubes and 28 depth charges. She was commanded by Captain J.A.R. Blanc and had a crew of 12 officers and 224 sailors. HMS Afridi was a tribal-class destroyer, launched on the 9th of June 1937 and commissioned just before the war on the 3rd of May 1938. Displacing 1,891 tons, Afridi is one of the most modern destroyers in the British fleet. Her length was 114.9 meters or 377 feet, and a beam of 11.13 meters or 36 feet 6 inches. She was powered by 3 Admiralty 3-drum boilers, giving her 44,000 horsepower and a top speed of 36 knots at a range of 5,700 nautical miles. She was armed with 4 twin 120mm or 4.7-inch guns, 1 quad 2-pounder or 40mm AA gun, 2 quad-mounted 12.7mm or 0.5-inch anti-aircraft machine guns, 1 quad 533mm or 21-inch torpedo tube, as well as 20 depth charges. She was commanded by Captain Philip Louis Villon and had a crew of 190 sailors and officers. At 1000 hours, Ju-87 Stuka dive bombers and Ju-88s attacked the French destroyer Bison as it lay off the coast, with a bomb from Stuka of Stumskamskafadas 1, or STG Dive Bombing Wing 1, hitting the forward magazine storage and creating a horrific explosion, killing 136 members of her crew and some elements of the 5th Demi-Brigade Chasseurs d'Alpine who had been evacuated onto the destroyer. HMS Imperial, Griffin, and Afridi came alongside to pick up survivors while fighting off 2 more German air attacks. Afridi then sank the stricken Bison with gunfire and torpedoes after picking up 69 survivors. By 1400 hours, all 3 ships had rejoined the convoy, when yet another air attack descended upon the convoy. The ship was targeted by more Stukas diving from each side, making evasive maneuvers ineffectual. She was hit by 2 bombs, one passing through the wireless telegraph office and exploding beside the forward boiler room, the second hitting just forward of the bridge and starting a severe fire at the end of the mess decks. Imperial came alongside to port and Griffin to starboard to take aboard survivors. At 1444 hours, Afridi capsized and sank bow first with the loss of 52 crewmen. 13 soldiers were also lost, the only casualties among the whole force evacuated from Andelsnes and Namsos, and 30 of the 69 Frenchmen she had picked up from Bison. The evacuation of the Allied forces from Norway, despite the losses, was a great success. However, the Allies sustained over 5,000 casualties during the whole operation, and for the men off Namsos on the 3rd of May 1940, it was a narrow escape.